Hello, my name is Speedy. I am a dog, and I will be presenting this iceberg today. For generations, people have wanted other people dead, whether it be from jealousy, greed, political gain.
Slumped in a chair, this is thought to be the last picture of him alive, as the effects of the supposed poisoning took hold.
Or just plain old revenge. And over the course of that history, people have had to get quite creative with how they're killing others.
Princip can't believe his luck. He has an opportunity to finish out what he started earlier that day. As the crowd tries to subdue Princip, the Archduke and his wife are left bleeding in the car. One bullet struck the Archduke in the neck, the other his wife in the stomach. Both die within the hour.
With changes in security, technology, taking out your target has gotten harder, and harder, and stranger. Believe me, I know from experience. Just kidding.
Prosecutors say that City was filmed running away from the scene, and traces of the nerve agent that killed Kim were later found on her clothes.
From murders on the toilet to cosplaying as a furry, assassinations are always dark because someone's trying to kill someone.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago.
But usually, an assassination comes from someone doing something that they believe is necessary.
The Associated Press reporting those words are deny, defend, depose. Insurance industry critics say those are tactics insurers use to delay access to health care and make it difficult.
I'm Captain Obvious, and this is the assassinations iceberg. You know, there's some things where it's okay to roll the dice, trying oat milk in your coffee for the first time. Sure, why not? Buying a questionable gadget from a random Instagram ad, go for it. Why not? It's all low stakes stuff. It's completely fine. But finding the right doctor, don't do that! It's why there's ZocDoc. All right, it's a free app and website where you can search for and compare high-quality, in-network doctors. With ZocDoc, you've got over 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty to choose from: mental health, dental care, eye care, skin care, etc. I actually have a eye doctor appointment that I scheduled for the end of this week using ZocDoc, and a dental appointment for the first week of the new year. Yeah! You can filter for doctors who take your insurance, who are nearby, etc., who are highly rated, verified by patients, and doctors who fit your specific need. Plus, you can see their actual appointment openings and book instantly, no phone tag required. And the best part is ZocDoc appointments can happen very fast. I'm talking like 24 to 72 hours or even same-day visits in some instances. I use this app and service. You should too. Stop putting off doctor's appointments. Go to ZocDoc.com/Oompaville and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/Oompaville. 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 Thank you to ZocDoc for sponsoring this video. Brian Thompson. Ever wonder how a promising Ivy League graduate could become a cold-blooded killer? On December 4th, 2024, Luigi Manion shocked the world by assassinating United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in broad daylight in Manhattan.
Accused killer Luigi Manion remains in a Pennsylvania prison cell, but New York officials say they are eager to extradite him. A source tells NBC News as soon as this week, a grand jury in New York could indict the man suspected of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
And this was not a random act of violence. This was an assassination. That's why it is at the very tippy top of our iceberg on assassinations.
Police are telling us this looks to be a targeted attack. It was very specific. They just don't know why he was targeted.
Mangione left behind marked bullet casings and a manifesto that will make your jaw fall to the floor. Just kidding, it sucks, dude. There has to be a better manifesto. That's not a manifesto. For the fads. He's an Ivy. This is his thing. I could draw this. I could draw this with crayons. That's how I'm gonna write my manifestos, with crayons. This one's odd because the assassin, Luigi, had it all, basically. A degree from the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School and a cushy job at a San Francisco tech startup.
According to a LinkedIn profile that matched the person of interest description, we see he also was most recently at a company based out of Santa Monica called TrueCar. TrueCar sent Cron 4 a statement saying, We generally don't comment on personnel matters, but we can confirm that Luigi Manion has not been an employee of our company since 2023.
You see, back in 2020, Luigi Manion was killing it at work. He just scored a big promotion at his Silicon Valley job. His Instagram was full of hiking pictures and his physique. Was he on trend? Yes or no?
Look at this guy's physique. The full six-pack, the well-formed chest, the arms, the delts. Does he look natural? Most people who look like this are not natty.
But then came a back injury that changed everything in his life. Mangione had been living in a surfing community since he was into outdoor activities, but left due to a back injury that worsened over time. He'd had surgery on his back and then struggled with chronic pain and brain fog. A lot of his Reddit posts make that clear. He was posting on all sorts of honestly very sad Reddits. And his posting was not the posting of an unhinged assassin maniac. Posting was of a guy who genuinely wanted the people around him on those Reddits to feel better, and he gave them reassurance. So, interesting.
He had here, which is called a spinal fusion procedure. That's a surgery where screws are placed in the spine to stabilize the spine and to bring the spine back to the alignment that it's supposed to be in. So it looks like this patient had a spinal fusion procedure for spondylolisthesis. In general, that's a very successful operation, but in this case, we don't know how successful it was for him.
Like many others, nothing worked for him, and as the pain got worse, so did his mood. He then started reading books, which is not good, okay? His reading library showed clear signs of radicalization, from books like Cricket, Outwitting the Back Pain Industry, and Industrial Society and Its Future, a book by Ted Kaczynski, aka the Unabomber. This is basically the Unabomber's manifesto, by the way. It's a book. That's why I refuse to believe that Luigi's manifesto is this shit. What the is this? Not that. This. Damn you, editor. Luigi rated Ted's manifesto a 4 out of 5 and called him a political revolutionary. Then he went on to assassinate the CEO of United Healthcare. He left behind those marked casings and a bag full of Monopoly money, and then his hunger got the best of him. He strolled into a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, probably craving a delicious chicken Big Mac. Just kidding. They suck! They're disgusting! Why? Instead of getting a Big Mac, he got a supersized helping of Justice when an employee recognized him and called the police.
This McDonald's was really a turning point in the investigation, but some online are bashing it. We've seen security outside and inside during the day, and Pennsylvania State Police released these new photos of the 26-year-old suspect, Luigi Manion, inside the McDonald's eating moments before the arrest. Now, there's been a lot of talk online about what went down at this McDonald's. We checked Yelp, and many are review bombing this McDonald's location.
When they nabbed Mangione, he was packing heat, a Glock, and his little weird manifesto. The Glock, I don't even know if it was 3D printed. I think it was. PSR made a video on it. I'm not 100% sure. It's all very, laced with misinformation. Who cares, dude? I'm worried about these UFOs that are coming around. Gonna release themselves. We're gonna have some non-human intelligence gonna make all this look goofy as shit pretty soon. So yeah, you've definitely heard of this one. That's why it's at the very tip of the assassin iceberg. This man killed somebody and absolutely raised some questions that are not gonna go away in regard to our healthcare system. Yeah. He got a back injury and a little bit of mental illness. Reportedly, his friends hadn't spoken to him in quite a while, and in November, he was reported missing by his own mother, and then that was just before the assassination. So, the American psycho, I guess. Jong Nam. What if I told you that a deadly chemical weapon was unleashed into a crowded international airport?
The operation plays out like a Cold War spy caper. There are lookout men, a chemist to handle the nerve agent, a getaway driver, and a team leader codenamed Grandpa.
And no, this was not a plot of a Hollywood thriller involving Bruce Willis and or other action stars, but a real-life assassination that unfolded in broad daylight on February 13th, 2017. A fellow by the name of Jong Nam, the half-brother of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, was attacked with VX nerve agent at Kuala Lumpur International Airport, and he was dead within 20 minutes. May God rest his soul. He was the good one.
Kim died after he was assaulted at Kuala Lumpur International Airport last week. Police on Friday saying that swabs from his face show the presence of VX nerve agent. a highly toxic substance classified as a weapon of mass destruction by the US.
That's what he got for trying to advocate reform in North Korea. At the center of this intricate assassination plot were two unsuspecting women, Siti Esaya, a 25-year-old Indonesian, and Don Thi Huang, a 28-year-old Vietnamese person.
In Malaysia, the two women accused of murdering the estranged half-brother of North Korea's leader were taken back to the crime scene at Kuala Lumpur's international airport. Escorted by dozens of police and journalists, they toured the check-in kiosk where they allegedly smeared a banned and deadly nerve agent on Kim Jong Nam's face last February.
These individuals, with no prior connection to international espionage, found themselves unwittingly embroiled in one of the most high-profile political murders of the 21st century. Oh, shit! The recruitment of both of these people was a masterclass in deception. North Korean operatives masquerading as television producers approached the women with an enticing proposition: participation in a hidden camera prank show.
Pada waktu pertama saya kenal James tuh orangnya baik, terus kayak lucu juga kan. Ikut syuting, katanya ikut syuting gimana, saya bilang kan. Syuting kayak buat lucu-lucuan gitu, lucu-lucuan gimana, kayak gimana ya. Terkenal kayak boom prank.
The innocuous sounding offer was in reality a carefully constructed ruse designed to manipulate the women into becoming assassins.
Two convoys guarded by heavily armed police commandos brought the 28-year-old Vietnamese woman, Don Thi Huang, and 25-year-old Indonesian Siti Aisyah to court for their first appearance in connection with the death of Kim Jong Nam. Autopsy results have shown he was poisoned with the highly deadly chemical weapon VX nerve agent.
How the f is that even possible? You're about to find out. This shit's crazy. This should be further down on the iceberg in my opinion, but you know, we're very generous on the Ubiville channel, so press the like button. Over several months, the North Korean agents meticulously groomed the women for their unknowing roles. The women underwent extensive training which involved multiple practice runs at various public locations. During these sessions, they were instructed to approach unsuspecting individuals and smear cosmetic creams on their faces, all under the guise of creating amusing content for their purported television show. This sounds a little bit like the plot for the movie The Interview, to be honest with you. I didn't speak that well. These practice runs and rehearsals normalized this act and removed any suspicion or hesitation from the women. And then they were used to commit an assassination. How insane is that? A little bit of lotion, a little bit of baby oil on the hands, and a little bit of rub. The end. Goodbye, Kim Jong Nam. So finally, on February 13th, 2017, at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport, they met their producer in a cafe where he instructed them as to who their target was. This is not funny. I should not be laughing at this. It's just so crazy. It sounds fake. It sounds fake that this is like a prank show. Where's Ashton Kutcher at? No Ashton Kutcher, just nerve agent, actually. They received the oil on their hands. This time, it wasn't baby oil, but it didn't feel any different to them. And CCTV footage captured the moment that these two women approached Kim Jong Nam and, with practiced ease, smeared a substance on his face. They believed it was the climax of their epic prank show that they were a part of. You know, a harmless prank. But in reality, they had just applied VX nerve agent, one of the deadliest chemical weapons known to man, onto the face of the only good person.
Authorities revealing a banned chemical agent, VX, was used to kill the North Korean leader's half-brother at a crowded Malaysian airport.
The aftermath of the attack unfolded rapidly, as you can probably imagine. Kim Jong Nam visibly was distressed. He sought assistance with airport medical staff.
So at this point, Kim Jong Nam is in the infirmary and he is behind the door. And this is where this image gets very scary. There's a gentleman in all black walking near this door, okay? And he's got a rolly suitcase. He's checking in to make sure that Kim Jong Nam is receiving medical treatment. This is one of the operatives. It's a very elaborate operation. It's very old school.
Unfortunately, within 20 minutes, he was pronounced dead.
Police have confirmed that the man killed at the KLIA-2 was indeed Kim Jong Nam, the estranged half-brother of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Selangor CID Chief SAC Fadzil Ahmad told the Star that the incident occurred around 9 a.m. on Monday as the victim was catching a flight to Macau. Kim told the receptionist at the departure hall that someone had splashed liquid on his face and he was in pain. He was immediately sent to the airport clinic where he experienced a mild seizure. Kim was pronounced dead en route to Putrajaya Hospital.
So now how the do you explain your way out of that one, being Asia and Huang? I mean, I have no idea how I would even begin to be like, well, it was a prank show. And yeah, it was a prank show. They were arrested, and only after their arrest, the true nature of their actions dawned upon them, the two victims/perpetrators.
Polisi juga nanya-nanya apa yang kamu lakukan di airport itu. Emangnya kenapa? Saya bilang kan. Terus polisi itu tiba-tiba bangun, kamu tahu nggak apa yang kamu lakuin, katanya. Kamu itu terlibat pembunuhan oleh adiknya presiden.
I can imagine the realization that they had been manipulated into committing murder was probably a bit surprising, a bit of a rough moment for them. Their claims of innocence and ignorance would form the cornerstone of the subsequent legal proceedings and international investigation that resulted in this assassination/murder. The whole thing became very high profile and is equally as absurd. VX nerve agent is one of the most toxic chemical agents known to mankind and is classified as a weapon of mass destruction. You know those things we went to Iraq for? No, not a Stargate, okay? No. Saddam's not the reincarnation of Nebuchadnezzar, okay? Shut up, dummy, okay? Different WMDs.
It sounds far-fetched, but this theory is widely believed.
So it's certainly not a very nice thing to do, and Kim Jong Nam's history with the North Korean regime will give you guys a little bit of context as to why he was targeted in such a intricate way. He was the eldest son of Kim Jong-il, the older brother of Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-il's eldest son, albeit born in 1971 to a mistress, he was kept out of the spotlight initially for this reason. Then schooled abroad before returning to the North in the late 1980s, his path as heir apparent looked clear when he took up a senior state role in 1998.
And like I said earlier, this old boy fell out of favor due to his criticisms of the regime and his desire for reform. I can't imagine why he would want to reform anything.
Who said North Korea doesn't have milkshake?
Just kidding. That's a /sarcasm moment, if you didn't know that.
믿었던 대로 위대한 승리를 안아온 잊을 수 없는.
He was exiled, and then Kim Jong-un saw him as a bit of a threat, and that made him a prime target for elimination.
In 2013, Kim Jong-un began the biggest purge in more than 50 years. It began with his uncle, Jang Song-taek, who was arrested and executed by firing squad. Over the next month, his whole family was rounded up, including his nephew, the ambassador. He too was recalled to Pyongyang and executed. That left Kim Jong Nam isolated and alone without any support.
Intriguingly, at the time of his assassination, Kim Jong Nam was carrying 12 doses of atropine, which is an antidote for the nerve agent.
There were drugs found in his blood and his urine, but those drugs and urine, those drugs were within the therapeutic range. However, one interesting fact was the fact that she examined 12 tablets that was found in the possession of Kim Jong Nam, and those 12 tablets were actually atropine tablets. And atropine, she testified, is the antidote for VX.
So he was aware of the danger. I mean, the guy's just walking around in Kuala Lumpur with an antidote to a weapon of mass destruction, but the effectiveness of the antidote, the atropine, depends on its method of administration. If it's taken as a tablet, which is what he had, it takes time to metabolize and enter the bloodstream, which renders it inert, especially in an acute situation like the airport attack, where they smeared it all over his face, and he's like, oh shit, this isn't good. This is really bad. What a bunch of assholes in North Korea.
Getting a good picture of everybody so we look nice and handsome and thin.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
Of course, though, North Korea denies it. When asked if they did it, they said no. We all know to believe authoritarian regime. Well, we all know to believe regimes. Unequivocally, right, guys? Not just authoritarian, not just tyrants. We just know to believe regimes. Whenever a regime says something, usually it's true. That's how they become a regime, is by being truthful and honest.
높이 발휘된 2021년은 조국과 원엄과 안전.
Fortunately for the two women assassins, their charges were dropped because they were basically scammed into doing this. I feel bad for them. That's gotta suck to kill somebody and not know it. I mean, what the f***? You think you're gonna be on TV, Ashton Kutcher's just gonna pop out of a bush, you know? And defend a rapist or something? But no, instead you accidentally deploy a weapon of mass destruction onto a world leader's brother's face at an airport. That's got to be really bad. That's the epic prank. They are the ones who got pranked, if you really think about it. Oh, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. It is nothing. It is nothing. It is nothing. It is nothing. Those were supposedly the last words of Archduke Franz Ferdinand on June 28th, 1914, after being shot through the neck. It was something. He had been shot through the neck.
The car carrying the Archduke went down an alternate route. Gavrilo Princip happened to be there. He shot and killed both Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie.
But the story of how that bullet found its mark is a series of coincidences so wild you'd think it was fiction. And this, if you didn't know, led to World War I. Have you ever heard of it?
At 11:15 a.m. on June 28, 1914, Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie, Duchess of Hohenberg, were shot to death in Sarajevo, Bosnia by Gavrilo Princip.
A failed grenade attack, a wrong turn, both things that led up to Ferdinand's assassination. And a lot of these have levels of comedy. All right, guys? A lot of these have some level of comedy. What's the punchline? The Great War. That's not that funny. I shouldn't have said that. On June 28, 1914, Sarajevo's streets were buzzing with anticipation. Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie had just rolled into town, ready to inspect some troops. But this wasn't your average royal visit. Picture this. 6 cars cruising through the city. Ferdinand and Sophie riding in style, riding dirty, pimping big time. And get this, it's an open top. They must not have learned from that JFK fella.
360 JFK style.
Just kidding. That was 50 years later. Franz and Sophie, being important political people, wanted the people that they're important to see them. Big mistake. There was security, but it wasn't tight. It's the early 1900s. It's staggering, honestly, how little security there was versus what there could have been. No soldiers were used for protection, despite 70,000 being stationed nearby, and only 120 policemen were assigned to protect the motorcade of the Archduke along its 4-mile route. Enter this guy's name. I'm gonna try to say it. Nedeljko Kabrinovich, a dude with a bone to pick and a grenade in his pocket. At 10:10 a.m., he decided it was showtime. As the motorcade passed the central police station, Kabrinovich lobbed the grenade like he was pitching for the MLB. But, plot twist, he's got a bum arm. He threw that shit so cattywampus it missed. Bomb bounced off the back of Ferdinand's ride and exploded under the next car.
One killer froze. Another couldn't bring himself to fire on the beautiful Sophie. A third threw a bomb. It ricocheted off the touring car's folded top, rolled under the car behind it, and exploded, wounding spectators and members of the royal escort. The perpetrators were quickly caught, and incredibly, the motorcade went on.
So he was close, but not close enough. Close only counts with horseshoes and hand grenades. But obviously that did not apply to Kabrinovich's attempt there in Bosnia-Herzegovina. I don't know, what was it before? Because it's Bosnia, I don't know. I don't know, dude. I'm really stupid. Chaos erupted, as you could probably imagine, after a grenade went off in the middle of a populated area, a city, whatever you want to call it. 2 army officers and over a dozen innocent people were caught in the crossfire and injured. Not good. Very bad. Ferdinand, understandably, was upset. Holy shit, I'm getting called by aliens. Ferdinand was understandably upset, and he reportedly yelled, "So you welcome your guests with bombs?" He's a little salty there. I think is that true? Did he actually say that? I feel like he probably didn't actually say that. It'd be funny though if he did. "So you welcome your guests with bombs?" I'm in love with my cousins. Classic World War I political humor there. This is my ball of flesh, by the way. It's jaundiced right now. Now, after surviving an attempted blow-up, most people would call it a day. Not Ferdinand, though. Ferdinand, in spite of being upset, still had a job to do, so he went to town hall, city hall, whatever the was. In one piece, still upset, after they left, he decided to go visit the wounded from the shrapnel of the grenade that was intended to kill him at the hospital. Believe it or not, the people who want him dead still wanted him dead just after they failed to kill him. Enter Gavrilo Princip. He was waiting in the wings, ready to change history forever and begin the First World War. Franz and Sophie are leaving the city hall, probably thinking that the worst is behind them. The driver takes a new route to avoid bomb throwing, but instead of avoiding bomb throwing, he made a wrong turn onto Franz Josef Street, and maybe the driver was an undercover assassin or something like this. You can't defame the dead, so I think he was probably undercover as an assassin. He was cruising down this narrow street, and then he died. He got shot. Gavrilo Princip, a 19-year-old assassin, was very excited to see Franz Ferdinand driving down Franz Street. Princip walks up, bang, bang, dead. Well, it is nothing. Then dead. He said it is nothing. And then World War I, the Great War. Sophie was also unfortunately shot in the assassination attempt, and Ferdinand's penultimate words were, "Sophie, Sophie, don't die, live for our children," just before he started rambling about his neck wound was nothing, and then he died. Very unfortunate. And then once again, World War I. Terrible. Bystanders tackled Princip to the ground. The assassin was caught, but the damage was done. Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie were both dead, and Europe was about to go up in flames. So what happened to Princip after he was surrounded by the mob? He got 20 years in prison, but instead died in 1918 from tuberculosis. So yeah, pretty crazy assassination attempt. You have a wrong turn, a stalled car, a missed grenade, and then all that blends together to set off the powder keg of early 20th century Europe. Which president was voted least likely to survive a drive through downtown Dallas, Texas? Comment your answers down below. The first thing that Bobby Kennedy said after finding out his brother had been assassinated was, "Did your people do this?" He said this to the desk officer of the CIA in the first call that he made after he received the news of his brother's death from FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover.
The first phone call that my father made after J. Edgar Hoover told him that his brother had been shot was to the CIA desk officer in Langley, who was only a mile from our house. Yeah. And my father said to him, "Did your people do this?"
John F. Kennedy, RFK's brother, was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963. By the way, RFK was assassinated 5 years later. So at this part of the iceberg, we are diving into some murky waters of JFK's assassination and some conspiracies.
There's an attack on the species by a guild of psychopaths, and they must be defeated. I'm gonna settle down.
Was this caused by the tension in the U.S. regime after the Bay of Pigs invasion, or maybe even the mafia's vendetta against the Kennedy administration?
I'm going to tell you this, there's no question or doubt in my mind that this was a mob hit.
On JFK?
100%. Wow. I've heard that from the right people my entire life.
Wow.
And they had no reason to lie to me.
We think we know that Lee Harvey Oswald is the man who pulled the trigger. That is according to the official story. There are quite a few theories involving that as well. But who did Lee Harvey Oswald work for? On September 27th, 1963, Lee Harvey Oswald arrived in Mexico City. This wasn't just some random vacation, he had a mission. Oswald beelined for the Cuban and Soviet embassies trying to get visas to visit these communist countries. Now this is where things get kind of strange. The CIA had these embassies under surveillance and they were snapping photos and recording conversations left and right. CIA supposedly had collected enough while surveilling the embassies and Oswald to fill 4 suitcases. So naturally, they caught Oswald on camera and tape. No, they didn't. Well, not exactly, at least. When the FBI got their hands on the surveillance material after the assassination, they were in for a bit of a shock. The man in the photos and the voice on the tapes, they believed wasn't Oswald, which means there was potentially someone that may have been impersonating the supposed assassin weeks before Kennedy was killed. At least that's how it seems, according to one theory, and the testimony of Sylvia Odio, a Cuban American who testified to the Warren Commission. She says that at that approximate time Oswald was seen in Mexico City, he was visiting her in Dallas. By the way, this wasn't some low-level mix-up. In 1975, 12 years after the assassination, the New York Times published data on Oswald apparently withheld from key Warren investigation aides. J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI's big cheese during the time of the assassination and before, had sent a memorandum to the State Department in 1960 concerning the possibility of a Lee Harvey Oswald impersonator using Oswald's credentials. So what does this mean? Well, guys, it opens up a big can of worms. And I feel like the files should just be absolutely released. Why not? Why not? They said Trump has vowed to release them. I hope that's true. A vow from any presidential person or candidate means not shit, but hopefully we do actually get some interesting information over the next couple of years. That would be cool. I'd like to know, what happened? As an American citizen, I'd like to know what happened.
I never believed that the CIA killed Kennedy.
No. You're talking to a guy that's read the entire JFK file.
You've seen all the secret stuff?
I've seen all of that, and I've seen the 7 pages of the 9/11 report. I've seen it all.
You don't say that to people that you can't tell what you saw.
The question arises from that, though. Was Oswald set up as a patsy? Was there a deeper conspiracy at play? And if so, who was pulling the strings? The CIA. Shh, don't tell anyone. The government's response to this bombshell was interesting, to say the least. Instead of launching a full-scale investigation into the Oswald doppelganger, they seemed more concerned with just sweeping it under the rug. Why? Why though? What were they afraid of uncovering? Probably that they did it. So yeah, very bizarre. And as we dig deeper into this part of the iceberg, keep the Mexico City weirdness in mind involving Oswald. It's just one of many oddities that don't quite fit the official lone gunman story, and there's a lot more where that came from, fellers and fellettes. There's one girl watching this, and it's my beautiful, beautiful girlfriend. So anyways, you'd think after such a national tragedy, the government would want to leave no stone unturned. You know, the leader of the free world was just assassinated in broad daylight in Dallas, Texas, by a communist, apparently. But no! Just days after the Kennedy assassination, the wheels were already in motion to just one-dimensionally pin everything on Oswald. On November 25th, 1963, only 3 days after the sitting president of the United States of America was killed, Nicholas Katzenbach, the Deputy Attorney General, fired off a memo that basically said, hey, let's get this over with. Let's wrap this up really quick, guys. All right, guys? Let's wrap this up quick, guys. Let's wrap this up quick. He did that too. In the memo, he went, oh, like a cartoonish, he attached a gif of him going, oh, in the memo, the email memo. He wrote, the public must be satisfied that Oswald was the assassin, that he had no Confederates who are still at large, and that the evidence was such that he would have been convicted at trial. He was murdered, by the way, by Jack Ruby, who then died a couple years later after the Warren Commission. He was crazy. He had a secret brain tumor, and he thought that the American government was torturing Jews and stuff. It was really weird. Really odd story, just in general. All around. Really odd. So back to Katzenbach's memo. Why was there a rush that all this needed to be shut down? The president was just assassinated. And also, why would we need to shut down any talk of conspiracies here? Thank you for the memo, Katzenbach, but respectfully, shut the fuck up. Katzenbach wanted to rebut thoughts of a communist conspiracy or a right-wing conspiracy to blame it on the communists. So basically, the officials were more concerned with controlling the narrative than finding the truth. Excellent job, my friends. Very, very, very good job. All this information is public now, by the way, and can be accessed on the Mary Farrell Foundation's website. The Mary Farrell Foundation is a nonprofit that actually sued the National Archive for failing its ministerial duties required by the JFK Assassination Records Collection Act of 1992. So yeah, you can find all this and look at it and then come to your own conclusion if you want. So JFK is killed. We get an awesome memo. Let's enter the Warren Commission. It was established by President Johnson to investigate the assassination. By the way, President Johnson was the vice president to JFK when he was shot in the head in Dallas that day.
The commission consisted of 6 pillars of American politics led by Supreme Court Chief Justice Earl Warren. At the time, their dedication was publicly unquestioned by the establishment.
Important note, the Warren Commission was not an impartial group. One of the members was Allen Dulles, the former CIA director that Kennedy had fired after the Bay of Pigs disaster, the invasion of the Bay of Pigs.
If you had 10 more commissions, you'd never get away from the idea that maybe there was a plot. We just didn't find any traces of it. Here's the commission's report. I keep it here at my right hand here. And here are the various volumes, 26 of them. And we put in that everything we thought was, the commission thought, was really important and really valuable to enable others to reach their own judgment.
Basically, this guy, Allen Dulles, wanted America to burn, it seemed like. He wanted us to have nukes launched at us and launch nukes at our enemy. This guy was a douche. So having him involved in any way seems like a conflict of interest to me. Old Big Dick Johnson didn't care, though.
Johnson did that for a particular reason. Johnson was one of the few people who understood that the CIA had been active in assassination programs in the Caribbean, and that Allen Dulles and the CIA had been particularly active in trying to assassinate Fidel Castro, among others. Johnson did not want the Warren Commission to know this. He was eager to have the Warren Commission come up quickly and decisively with the one crazy assassin theory. And he put Allen on the commission to assure that this secret would be hidden. And Allen succeeded in this.
It seemed like from the very beginning, the Warren Commission had a job, and that was to make the lone gunman theory stick. They cherry-picked evidence and witness testimonies that fit their narrative while conveniently ignoring anything that didn't fit their narrative. For example, several witnesses reported hearing shots from the grassy knoll, suggesting a second shooter. The commission did not care. They just swept that under the rug. And even within the commission, there were doubts. Senator Richard Russell, one of the commissioners, thought the single bullet theory was a load of horse shit. He couldn't believe one bullet could cause all the wounds in both Kennedy and Governor Connally, but his objections were, you guessed it, ignored. Only 33% of Americans polled in 2017 believed that Oswald acted alone. That is a majority of skeptics. The confidence and trust in these three-letter agencies is basically at an all-time low now, especially. And even in 2013, the CIA admitted that their former director, John McCone, hid stuff from the Warren Commission. Why? What the f? I know why. I know why, dude. I know why. We're all gonna burn one day. It just depends on when. So like, their why doesn't make as much sense. So yeah, JFK assassination, a very well-known one, but out of all of them, it's probably the most debated and secretive, and there still is information that is missing. The full story has yet to be painted and might be at some point in the near future if all the files are released. Trump has even been quoted as saying that there are people still alive that are implicated, and that's why he didn't release the JFK files in his first term, which I think he should have. I think that's stupid as to hide any of that stuff. I mean, nobody trusts you already. The confidence and trust in the government does not hinge on them being honest about the evil that they did in the 60s. All it makes it look like is that they're still doing it, which is just don't do it. Just tell us, be honest and tell us, and don't do it anymore. Or just keep it up. I mean, it doesn't affect me at all. Me or my sentient skin tag. This is this large skin tag with jaundice that I found on my neck earlier. Imagine surviving cyanide-laced cakes, multiple gunshots, and drowning attempts in a single night. Sounds impossible, right, my friends? Wrong!
How many does he have to eat?
One of these cakes will kill him instantly.
It's only impossible for us laymen, me and you, not for Grigory Rasputin, the infamous Russian mystic who laughed in the face of death on December 30th, 1916. From his humble beginnings in Siberia to becoming the most feared man in the Russian imperial court, Rasputin's life was anything but ordinary.
Grigory Rasputin was born around 1869, and he was a stranik, a kind of traveling preacher.
But it's his death and the legends surrounding it, the mythology of the death of Rasputin boggles my mind, and it will boggle your mind, and that's why it's a little down on this assassination iceberg. So how the did this guy manage to survive multiple assassination attempts, and why were so many people desperate to see him dead? Well, it's because he was a monk, specifically the Mad Monk. Actually, he wasn't a monk. He was just called the Mad Monk.
Inspired by the humbled monks that wandered endlessly from holy site to holy site, he spent years on pilgrimages across Russia. On his travels, strangers were captivated by Rasputin's magnetic presence. Some even believed he had mystical gifts of prediction and healing.
This guy's story is wild, and it starts in a tiny village in Siberia. He was born in 1869. Grigory Rasputin was a regular peasant farmer's kid. At 18 years old, Rasputin had a religious awakening at a monastery. He never officially became a monk, but he started wandering around acting like a monk. People also started to believe that he had healing powers and could see the future. In 1905, Rasputin met Tsar Nicholas II and Tsarina Alexandra, the leaders of Russia at the time, and their son Alexei, who had hemophilia, which is basically where your blood doesn't clot properly, and if you get like a paper cut, you just start to die. So Rasputin helped the child using his magical powers and became best buds with the royal family.
Alexandra was equally impressed with Rasputin's claim of mystical powers and fell quickly under his spell. By now, the royal couple were dealing with a new internal family crisis, which came in the form of Alexei's illness, and Rasputin's supposed healing powers brought a sense of reassurance to the family.
Rasputin was also insane, to put it lightly. He was out there and getting wasted. I mean, he told people that if they were near him and touched him, that it would increase their health and longevity. It had the leader of the country backing him on that. Like, Rasputin, if you touch me, you'll live longer. Touch my penis. That's what he would say. That's actually what he would say. He's quoted as saying that. He's not. But he would say that, though, I promise. In spite of all of that seemingly obvious nonsense brought forward by Rasputin, the Tsar and Tsarina still thought he was God's gift to Earth, and they still really liked him a lot. Historian Douglas Smith said, Rasputin's assurances calmed Alexandra and filled her with confidence, also his seed. This was all regarding Alexei's health, their child, who he was healing. He was able to heal using potions and magic. Not everyone bought Rasputin's act, though. Prime Minister Pyotr Stolpin thought he was full of it, and a bunch of other bigwigs in Russia were getting pretty pissed off. They saw Rasputin as a manipulative charlatan taking advantage of the leaders of their country, which he was. And it gets worse. He wasn't just a charlatan. By 1916, Rasputin wasn't just playing doctor or monk. He was giving Nicholas II and Alexandra political advice and even had a say in military decisions. Can you imagine this guy, a random guy from the middle of nowhere, suddenly showing up and running your empire? No wonder people wanted this sumbitch gone, this big old bastard and his long dick. Prince Felix Yusupov and Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich were among the nobles who thought that Rasputin really needed to go if they wanted to save the monarchy. And lacking foresight, little did they know, their plan to get rid of him would turn into one of the most insane assassination attempts in history. The night of December 29th/30th, 1916 was supposed to be Rasputin's last. Yusupov and his boys had a simple plan. Invite Rasputin over to party, poison him, and call it a day. According to Yusupov, they fed Rasputin cakes and wine that were laced with cyanide, but he didn't die.
Prince Yusupov's account, the most famous, claims that he served Rasputin cyanide-laced cakes and tea. Yusupov says that he sat there in awe as Rasputin gobbled them down with no ill effects. Next, he says, he plied him with poisoned wine, which again did nothing.
Yusupov claimed later in his memoir that this devil who was dying of poison, who had a bullet in his heart, spoiler, they shot him, must have been raised from the dead by the powers of evil. Yusupov was pretty dramatic. The thing is, in 1917, just a couple weeks later, they performed an autopsy on Rasputin and they found zero poison in his system. So either Yusupov was lying or they messed up their poison game. I'm not exactly sure. Rasputin's daughter, Maria, says her dad didn't even eat sweets, so it's possible that the poison cake story is bullshit. So what else happened that night? He ate the cakes. He also got shot. Three times, to be exact, once in the forehead, once in the back, and once in the side. Yusupov claims that Rasputin was still kicking after all of that, so they chucked him in the Neva River to finish the job. The Neva River, I'm not exactly sure. The Neva River. Yeah. Once again, Maria, Rasputin's daughter, has a contradicting take. She says her dad was still alive when they threw him in the river and he fought against his bindings before drowning. So she believes he drowned. But modern forensic analysis says that's probably not what happened either. The bullet wounds alone would have been enough to kill Rasputin. Magic's not real, we know that, or at least we think we know. If you get shot in the head, you're going to die. It doesn't matter if you can float or levitate or whatever the fuck, and if you're invincible against cakes. It's a lot of mythology and legend, it seems. This all matches up with Yusupov trying to portray himself as a hero as well, and not just a cold-blooded murderer who shot a guy in the forehead. He wanted to be seen as taking down an evil force, and it makes sense that he would create this web of lies here. Saying, I poisoned and shot a really horny, unarmed guy doesn't have quite the same ring as we battled an unkillable demon all night long. In the end, Rasputin died like a dog. He died, all right? He got shot. He got shot multiple times. He died from the gunshot wounds. There were no supernatural powers, no miraculous survival, just a regular old murder back in the early 1900s. That being said, there were still a lot of wild stories about Rasputin. He was definitely a horny, crazy guy who went from nobody to basically running Russia, and then he got murdered by some rich fellas. It's not exactly Hollywood material, but you add some poison, gunshots, and a dramatic drowning, it makes more sense. It also, in a sense, brought down the Russian Empire at the time. There were a lot of revolutions boiling under the surface, and shortly after Stalin came about and Lenin, and I mean, yeah, it was a wild one. It was a wild one, guys. I miss Rasputin. Ra ra Rasputin. Da 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 da. I don't know the words or whatever. Ra ra Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen. Think for me, really quickly. What would be the worst place to get assassinated? What do you think? Just like talking to them in front of your parents, maybe talking to your best friend, in bed with a woman you love, maybe on the toilet pooping. Toilet, probably not your first guess, but that is exactly what happened to Godfrey the Hunchback in February 1076. A long ass time ago. A long ass time ago. Picture this, a real life medieval hunchback. Not only a hunchback, a duke with a hunchback. Not exactly the image of a fearsome warrior, right, my friends? Wrong! Godfrey of Lower Lorraine was aptly nicknamed the Hunchback, and he was a military badass and political powerhouse. In spite of his physical limitations, of course. In the year 1069, Godfrey stepped up as Duke of Lower Lorraine. He married Matilda of Tuscany, and it was an extremely rocky, bad, sad marriage. These two hated each other. She couldn't get over his hump. Their marriage eventually just fell apart, but while his love life sucked, Godfrey's military career was amazing. It was a highlight reel after highlight reel after highlight reel. This guy was genuinely extremely talented when it came to killing bitches. An actual highlight of his military career would be kicking Dirk V of Holland out of the Meuse estuary. I mean, we all remember that one, guys, don't we? Oh man, Dirk V coming up over the hill of that estuary. Wow. The Meuse, yeah. Godfrey was also caught up in a fairly large religious drama called the Investiture Controversy. This controversy all circled around who was able to appoint church officials. At the time, it was the Pope of the Holy Roman Empire. Godfrey sided with the Emperor, though, which was a fairly ballsy move at the time and made him a lot of enemies. Two guys in particular had it out for Godfrey, Robert the Frisian and Pal Dirk V. These two sumbitches hatched a plan, a disgusting, nasty, sneaky plan that would catch Godfrey literally with his pants down. Have you ever seen a bathroom in a medieval castle? They're not really bathrooms. It's just a hole. It's a hole that either goes to the ground or has a chute that then goes somewhere else. They weren't very technologically advanced. Their latrines were built into the walls, like a hole in the wall, a hole in the floor, maybe a bench over the hole. I'm not sure. Good luck though. Good luck though putzing, okay? Anyways, those facts aside, Robert and Dirk could not get close to the castle because they were enemies. So they had a guard named Giselbert. Giselbert was what they called at the time a speculator, which could mean a guard or a spy or a soldier with just a special assignment. And one night in February 1076, Robert Frisian and Dirk V gave this goofy-ass speculator a task. Take out Godfrey the Hunchback. This sounds all made up, but it's real. This is actually real. It's crazy. It's crazy this is real. So in February 1076 in Antwerp, Belgium, Giselbert crouched beneath the latrine and waited for Godfrey to do his pooping. Godfrey, blissfully unaware, decided it was time to answer nature's call, and the hunchback waddled himself to the latrine and sat down. As Godfrey took his seat on the throne, Giselbert the speculator struck. He stabbed upward, catching Godfrey right in the butthole. Talk about a pain in the ass, am I right? Oh God, that's horrible to even think about. Oh shit, I feel like I felt that before, just sitting in my chair playing Minecraft. Oh shit, my asshole. The wounds caused by the attack resulted in the death of Godfrey the Hunchback. They loaded him onto a boat and shipped him off to Utrecht. And on February 26, 1076, Godfrey kicked the bucket. So he lived for a little while, but you get stabbed in the asshole back in the day, you ain't living for long, okay, guys? Hemorrhoids would kill a motherfucker back then, all right? Back in them days, shut, bud. Upon hearing how he died, historians of the time called it shameful and vile because they had a duke die on the toilet, which is insanely embarrassing to any nation or region. One writer said that Godfrey was stabbed while attending to the natural need. News of his death spread like crazy. It was one of the very first memes, and this caused a conflict in information. Some sources say that Giselbert the speculator used a sword. Others say it was a spear or some kind of sharp iron weapon. I say he used his finger. He didn't use his finger. That's just what I say, though. I'm contributing to the conflict of information. In the end, Godfrey's death up Lower Lorraine and sent ripples through European politics, changing alliances and power structures, all because of one badly timed bathroom break. Yorg Yinecht. Picture this, dumbass. It's 1639, you're at a carnival in Switzerland, and suddenly a dude in a bear costume comes at you with an axe. A furry, if you will. You, Yorg Yinecht, a pastor turned politician who played both sides during the 30 Years' War, which lasted 30 years, probably didn't see that coming, did you? But then again, you've been known to assassinate people yourself, so maybe you should expect some karma to come back and bite you in the ass, dumbass. That's why I called you a dumbass. I'm sorry, you're not a dumbass. This is Yorg. Yorg. In 1618, a Protestant pastor named Yorg Yinecht supervised the torture of a Catholic priest. Born in 1596 in Somaden, Switzerland, he started out as a regular Protestant pastor in Graubünden. But the 30 Years' War changed everything for Yorg. This massive conflict turned Europe into a religious battleground, and Graubünden was caught right in the middle. As tensions rose, Yinash took a hard line against Catholic influence. He was a Protestant, you know. He wasn't content with just preaching, he wanted action. And being a preacher at the time, he wasn't content with only that, so he took action. And in 1620, he led an armed uprising against the pro-Spanish Catholic faction in Graubünden. In 1621, Yinash, along with a group of Protestant rebels, stormed the castle of Pompeius von Planta, a prominent Catholic leader, and they didn't come for tea. Yinash and his men brutally murdered everyone, supposedly with an axe. Yeah, Yinash came up there swinging, killed Planta, killed him apparently with an axe. All right, guys, it was a little bit of flair for the story there, a little bit of flair. Sorry. This was an assassination, and it was a pretty big deal. It kicked off a period of violence known as the Bund der Wirren, or Gabunden Troubles, or something, I'm not sure. I don't know how Swiss people sound. Yinash had to spend the next few years in exile due to being such a dickhead. While in exile, Yinash started thinking of ways to come back, and he began to see himself as more than just a religious leader, pastor, whatever the f***. He started rubbing elbows with political bigwigs and military types, and by 1624, Yinash had reinvented himself. He wasn't just Pastor Yorg anymore, he was Colonel Yinash, a military commander fighting for the Protestant cause. As he got more involved in the political game, he started to realize that sticking to one side might not be the best move. So to try and find a middle ground, the dude who once tortured Catholics for fun converted to Catholicism in 1635. Very strange. Important to note, this wasn't Yinash having a crisis of faith. This was pure political calculation. You see, the 30 Years' War had turned Graubünden into a messy chessboard with France, Venice, Spain, and Austria all trying to make moves, and Yinash figured he'd play all sides. Before his conversion, Yinash was always cozying up to various powers, and he'd chat with the French one day and turn around and negotiate with the Spanish the next. This guy may have been the very first double agent of all time. But why did he convert to Catholicism, you might be asking? Simple, my friends. The big Catholic powers, Spain and Austria, were throwing their weight around, and Yinash wanted a noble title and a fancy piece of land to call his own, and Yinash believed that the quickest way to do this was to become friends with the biggest players in the war, and both of those players and nations happened to be Catholic. He was specifically interested in the Habsburg monarchy. You know, the Habsburgs, these people with the gigantic chins, they're known for this, the Habsburg jaw. It's ridiculous. I mean, look at the chin on that guy. What the f***? Yinash wanted to get close with its most elite members, and while all this was going on, Yinash was also trying to keep Graubünden independent. And all this led to the creation of a complicated and delicate scenario that with one wrong move could ruin Yorg's reputation entirely. But Yorg struggled to appease both sides and was making enemies faster than he could count. His old Protestant buddies felt betrayed because he became a Catholic, and his new Catholic pals weren't sure they could trust him. By the late 1630s, the knives were out for Yinash. Literally, they were plotting to kill him with knives. They were trying to stab him. And this dumbass was too busy dreaming of a sweet, noble life to notice the storm brewing around him. And finally, on January 24th, 1639, Yorg was attending a masked carnival ball in Chur, Switzerland. And while enjoying the festivities, a group of masked men approached him with various weapons. One was dressed as a monk, one was dressed as a bear, and the others were just dressed as normal people from the 1600s. The group was made up of Protestant opponents who were upset with Yorg's political and religious betrayals, and they killed the shit out of him. They used an axe, allegedly the same tool he used to kill Pompeius von Planta earlier before. May he rest in peace.
Giuseppe Marco Fesci.
I like that voice. That's a funny voice. Is there a booger in my nose? What if I told you that on July 28th, 1835, a dude tried to assassinate the King of France with a homemade gun that had 25 barrels? You'd probably say, how? And I'd say, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. It happened. It actually happened. Giuseppe Marco Fesci started out as a shepherd in Corsica and would eventually join the army to become a soldier. Fesci joined the Neapolitan army in 1808. That is an army, I think, of ice cream. I'm not exactly sure. And in 1812, he had climbed the ranks to become a sergeant, and by 1814, he took a little trip, along with Colonel Jackson, down the mighty Mississippi. Just kidding, he was discharged. After leaving the army, he got caught forging documents and ended up doing 10 years in prison. What a dumbass. When he got out, he traveled to Lyon and Paris to start a new life, and in Paris, Fesci was all about that fraud life. He used fake papers to scam his way into a government job and even managed to score a pension. But eventually, his lies all caught up with him, and he lost it all. What a dumbass. Feeling spiteful, Fesci began plotting to take out the king. I mean, that's quite a leap there, I guess. And in the 1830s, France was filled with turmoil. The country had just gone through another revolution, and King Louis Philippe was trying to keep everyone happy with his fence-sitting middle ground approach. Kind of what I do on YouTube. But the king's policies weren't cutting it for guys like Fieschi. You know, insane schizophrenic criminals. Fieschi started hanging out with his buddy Pierre, who was very into the idea of overthrowing the government. He was a revolutionary. Pierre had been arrested in 1816 for a different assassination plot and was a part of the July Revolution that occurred in 1830. So two of them began to plan a device that would be used to shoot the king. But they didn't want to use just any old mechanism or device. These dumbasses built the infernal machine, a homemade contraption with 25 barrels, just ready to unleash a storm of lead and kill the king of France or whatever. A 25-barreled gun. Why? What is the point? It's crazy. Fieschi tried his best to work secretly, piecing together his infernal machine in a room on the 3rd floor of the 50 Boulevard du Temple because it had a perfect view of where the king's procession would pass. This guy didn't have a lot of money though, so he needed funding to construct his magnum opus, I guess, and that's where his buddy Pierre came in. Pierre Maury and another guy, Theodore Pepin, another local revolutionary. They bankrolled this whole operation at a cost of 250 francs each. All 25 barrels were lined up side by side with their touch holes in a neat row. Touch holes, a little thing on the back of a cannon or muzzleloader where the ignition reaches the cannon chamber and then launches the bullet. Okay, yeah, you get it. Fieschi could light one fuse and all of the 25 barrels would fire at once, or at least that was the plan. So Fieschi's infernal machine was all set up and ready to go on Boulevard du Temple. The stage was set for one amazing show of artillery. Now, it's on the bottom of our iceberg tier list, so how do you guys think it played out? It didn't go quite as planned. On July 28th, 1835, King Louis Philippe is cruising down the boulevard in South Dallas, Texas. Just kidding. He's in France, all right? Giuseppe Fieschi is anxiously awaiting on the 3rd floor, aiming his 25-barreled mechanism. These things are filled to the brim with lead. So the king is approaching, and Fieschi is probably sweating 25 barrels worth of bullets himself. When the king is in position, Fieschi lights the fuse and shoots around 400 projectiles, turning the street into a war zone. But not every single barrel worked. Several barrels malfunctioned and exploded instead. 18 people died on the spot, including some of the king's entourage, like Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Rusek and Marshal Mortier. Another 22 folks were writhing in pain, with some missing entire limbs from the damage of the infernal machine. And one eyewitness said there was suddenly a void around the king when the bullets started flying. People started dragging the dead and wounded into the Yard and Turk Cafe nearby. Louis Philippe, the king, only suffered a small graze on the forehead by a bullet. Meanwhile, Fieschi in his room was severely wounded by his infernal machine, and it left him with a messed up head, face, and hand. And he tried to make a run for it, but he was bleeding profusely, and the authorities just followed him, and they got him. After the attack, Fieschi was a mess. His own weapons had backfired, leaving him with serious injuries all over his body. Authorities captured him, found him, he spilled the beans, and flipped on his buddies Pierre and Pepin. For some reason, Fieschi was convinced he would be pardoned, but the courts found him guilty, along with his investors, Moray and Pepin, and the three of them were sentenced to death via guillotine. On February 19th, 1836, they were executed. Pepin got the chop first, then Moray, and then finally, our boy, our friend of the show, Fieschi. So yeah, they were all put to death, and that's the end. That's crazy. A 25-barreled gun killed everybody but the guy he wanted to kill, and then got his head chopped off. This has been the Assassination Iceberg. If you guys enjoyed it, press the like down below, and I'll see you in the next one.